Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the vast expanse of human experience, guided by the threads of time and the whispers of the past. Today, we find ourselves at the threshold of a most fascinating era, one that has captivated the imagination of scholars and travelers alike for centuries, the Golden Age of the Silk Road. As we set out on this captivating narrative, let us first immerse ourselves in the world that gave birth to this legendary network of trade routes. It is a tale of merchants and monarchs, of philosophers and warriors, all connected by an intricate web of commerce, culture, and curiosity. The Golden Age of the Silk Road, which unfolded during the Tang Dynasty in China from the 7th to the 10th century, was a time when the East and the West converged in a symphony of exchange, leaving behind a legacy that would forever alter the course of human history. To understand the genesis of this golden era, we must delve into the formative events that laid its foundations. Our journey begins in ancient China during the Han Dynasty, which ruled from 206 BCE to 220 CE. It was a period marked by significant economic and territorial expansion, with the Chinese Empire stretching its borders through a series of military campaigns and strategic alliances. The Han emperors, particularly Wu Di, who reigned from 141 to 87 BCE, were instrumental in establishing the initial routes that would later become the Silk Road. One of the pivotal moments in the prelude to the Golden Age was the dispatch of Zhang Qian, a Chinese diplomat and explorer, to the western regions in 138 BCE. Zhang Qian's mission was to forge alliances with the nomadic tribes of Central Asia against the common enemy, the Xiongnu Confederation. Although his diplomatic endeavors were not entirely successful, his journeys opened up new avenues for trade and cultural exchange between China and the civilizations of the West. As we traverse the centuries, we find ourselves in the midst of the 4th to the 6th century CE, a period marked by turmoil and transformation. The fall of the Han Dynasty led to a fragmentation of power in China, with various regional kingdoms vying for dominance. Meanwhile, in Central Asia and the Middle East, other powers were rising, including the Sasanian Empire in Persia and the Byzantine Empire in the Mediterranean. The Sui dynasty, which briefly unified China from 581 to 618 CE, laid the groundwork for the Tang dynasty's ascendance. The Sui emperors initiated a series of ambitious projects, including the reconstruction of the Great Wall and the Grand Canal, which would later facilitate trade along the Silk Road. However, it was during the Tang dynasty that the conditions were ripe for the Golden Age to unfold. Under the wise and enlightened rule of Emperor Gaozu, who founded the Tang dynasty in 618 CE, China experienced a period of unprecedented prosperity and stability. The capital, Chang'an, modern-day Xi'an, became one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world, attracting scholars, merchants, and travelers from as far away as India, Persia, and the Mediterranean. It was amidst this vibrant tapestry of cultures that the Silk Road began to reach its zenith, with caravans laden with silk, spices, tea, and precious stones traversing the vast distances between China and the West. As the Tang dynasty's prosperity and stability continued to flourish under Emperor Gaozu's successors, the Silk Road reached new heights of vitality and splendor. One of the most significant events that defined this golden era was the reign of Emperor Xuanzong, who ruled from 712 to 756 CE. During his tenure, the Tang capital, Chang'an, became a melting pot of cultures, with scholars, merchants, and travelers from all over the known world converging on the city. The emperor himself was a patron of the arts and sciences, and his court attracted some of the most brilliant minds of the time, including the famous poet Bai Juyi. The Silk Road's network of trade routes expanded significantly during this period, with caravansaries and merchant towns springing up along the way to cater to the needs of travelers and traders. The city of Samarkand, in modern-day Uzbekistan, became a major hub of commerce and learning, attracting scholars and merchants from as far away as China, India, and the Mediterranean. The famous astronomer and mathematician Al-Khwarizmi, who lived during this time, was said to have studied at the prestigious House of Wisdom in Baghdad, which was closely linked to the intellectual circles of Samarkand. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Silk Road during this period was the exchange of ideas and technologies between different cultures. The Chinese, for example, introduced papermaking techniques to the Arabs, who in turn shared their knowledge of astronomy and mathematics with the Chinese. The Indian scholar Kumarajiva, who lived in the 4th century CE, translated many important Buddhist texts into Chinese, helping to spread Buddhism throughout East Asia. As the great Tang Dynasty poet Du Fu once wrote, "The roads are long, the mountains are high, but the will to learn is stronger than any obstacle." The Golden Age of the Silk Road was also marked by significant diplomatic and cultural exchanges between the Tang Dynasty and other powers. In 718 CE, the Tibetan Empire, which had risen to prominence in the 7th century CE, sent a delegation to the Tang court, led by the Tibetan king's nephew, who was received with great fanfare by Emperor Xuanzang. This diplomatic exchange marked the beginning of a long period of cultural and trade relations between Tibet and China, with Tibetan monks and scholars traveling to China to study Buddhism and other subjects. As the 8th century CE progressed, the Silk Road continued to thrive, with merchants and traders from all over the world taking advantage of the stable and secure conditions that prevailed along the trade routes. The famous Tang Dynasty merchant, Wang Xuanzi, who lived during this time, traveled extensively throughout Central Asia and the Middle East, amassing a vast fortune through his trading activities. His journeys took him to places as far-flung as modern-day Iran, Afghanistan, and India, where he traded in goods such as silk, spices, and precious stones. In 755 CE, however, the Tang Dynasty was shaken by the An Lushan Rebellion, a major uprising that lasted for several years and weakened the dynasty's control over the Silk Road. The rebellion was sparked by the growing power of regional military governors, who resented the central government's attempts to limit their authority. Although the rebellion was eventually put down, it marked a significant turning point in the history of the Silk Road, as the Tang Dynasty's grip on the trade routes began to loosen. Despite this setback, the Silk Road continued to flourish, with new powers rising to prominence in Central Asia and the Middle East. The Uyghur Khanate, which emerged in the 8th century CE, became a major force in the region, controlling a vast network of trade routes that stretched from modern-day Mongolia to the Caspian Sea. The Uyghurs were skilled traders and diplomats, and their Khanate played a crucial role in maintaining the stability and security of the Silk Road during this period. As the Uyghur Khanate continued to play a crucial role in maintaining the stability and security of the Silk Road, the Tang Dynasty's grip on the trade routes gradually loosened, marking the beginning of the end of the Golden Age. The 9th century CE saw the rise of new powers, including the Samanid Empire, which controlled a vast territory stretching from modern-day Uzbekistan to Iran. The Samanids were patrons of learning and culture, and their capital, Bukhara, became a major center of intellectual and artistic activity, attracting scholars and merchants from all over the world. One of the most significant events of this period was the translation of Greek and Persian texts into Arabic, which helped to spread knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and medicine throughout the Islamic world. The famous physician Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna, who lived during this time, wrote extensively on medicine and philosophy, and his works had a profound impact on the development of these fields in Europe. As he once said, "The knowledge of anything, since all things have causes, is not acquired or complete unless it is known by its causes." As the Golden Age of the Silk Road drew to a close, the trade routes continued to flourish, but the stability and security that had characterized the earlier period began to break down. The 10th century CE saw the rise of the Seljuk Turks, who controlled a vast territory stretching from modern-day Turkey to Iran, and the 11th century CE saw the Mongol conquests, which had a devastating impact on the Silk Road and the cities that depended on it. Despite the decline of the Silk Road, its legacy endured, and it continued to shape the course of world history. The exchange of ideas and technologies that had taken place during this period had a profound impact on the development of science, technology, and culture in Europe, Asia, and Africa. As the great historian Ibn Khaldun once noted, the Silk Road was a highway not only for merchandise, but also for ideas, and it played a major role in shaping the course of human history. Today, the Golden Age of the Silk Road is remembered as a period of extraordinary cultural and economic achievement, marked by the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies between East and West. The cities that once flourished along the Silk Road, such as Samarkand, Bukhara, and Xi'an, continue to be celebrated for their stunning architecture, vibrant culture, and rich history. The golden age of the Silk Road may have come to an end, but its impact on world history is still felt, and its legacy continues to shape our understanding of the present. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.